From the PEN studios, this is the Imperfect Moms Club with your hosts, Lisa and Brittany.
On this week's episode of Imperfect, we're talking to Nina Cruz, a social worker and meditation teacher. Join us as Nina shares her experiences and advice for moms everywhere.
On today's episode of Imperfect, we're speaking with the lovely Nina Cruz. She is a mom of 2 kiddos, a certified conscious parenting coach, a social worker, and a meditation teacher. As a private conscious parenting coach, she promotes awareness with her clients of generational patterns and how those patterns affect their lives and contribute to all of the stress, anxiety, and overwhelm that they face in their parenting journeys. She helps parents to do their own inner work in order to experience more freedom and joy in their lives. She specializes in a variety of areas, including pre-postnatal, single parenting, parenting highly sensitive children, autism and ADHD, and much more. Her coaching approach includes trauma-informed care, providing a safe space for her clients to aid in their individual healing. Basically, the universe sent her to me on a silver platter because it's exactly what I want to focus on this season of the show. Thanks, universe! Looking at the world these days, I think we could all use more of all of that, so I'm very excited that she's taking the time to be with us today. Hi, welcome to the Imperfect Moms Club.
Hi, Liz. Thanks for having me today.
Of course. So if you could, to start us off, just tell us who you are and what you do.
Sure. Well, my name's Nina Cruz, and I'm a conscious parent coach. I support parents on their journey to move through and deal with challenging behaviors, overwhelm, stress, anything parenting related. But truth be it, you actually don't have to have a child to do this work because you just have to have had a parent. So I've really coached many people, even without children, because the work is about us and not the child or not the external situation or what's going on outside of us.
Yeah, and I love that. I was on your website for a long time, and I was like, oh my God, this is exactly everything that I like, that I want, that I'm like fascinated with, this idea of, how we were brought up affects how we, raise our children, and, and so anything that's happening with us can affect how we respond to our kids and how we react to them and things like that. So I'm just so happy. I feel like the universe brought you to me.
Awesome.
Because this new season of my show, I'm focusing on generational trauma and about how how that affects children into adulthood, and then how adults we just keep the cycle going. And so my goal is to break the cycle with my own kids. I try really hard to be as mindful as I can of those kinds of things. So I guess to start kind of broader, and then we can work our way more specific, just explain what is conscious parenting for us.
So conscious parenting is kind of it's not a strategy, it's a real experience with yourself and with your external world and your children. So conscious parenting really flips the mainstream model of parenting, which is quite hierarchical, which is I'm the parent, I'm greater than, and you're the child, you're lesser than, and I know more than you, and what I say and do is the way, kind of, my way or the highway. So it really flips the model, and we look at each other as human beings on a journey of growing and learning together. I'm not greater than, you're not. You also have, great insights that I may not see as a parent. And it's really accepting that we're all on the same continuum, we're all on the same level playing field.
Yeah.
And conscious parenting really moves away from any kind of control-based strategies, any fear, and it moves towards more connection in the parent first and then with the child. You become more of a spiritual guide for your child, but they actually are also your main teacher, showing you where you need to grow up, where you need to adult and stop being in your inner child, and, really look at and ask the question, what is my child teaching me?
I love that. In your About Me section, you were talking about how the parents, it's inner work, and I like that term, inner work, and that phrase. So that's amazing. And so how does, I guess, because these days there's conscious parenting, but then there's respectful parenting and gentle parenting. So how, I guess, does conscious parenting differ from those?
I feel conscious parenting encompasses all kinds of parenting, really, because, and they're not really, because it's actually, it's not telling you what you should or shouldn't do. It is actually starting to go within and find your way from the inside out with your child, with the moment, instead of the outside in. We grow up, we're mostly born into a world of it's the outside and then the inside. We're always looking out. We're not really reflecting in so much. So it begins inside of you, in the moment of trigger with your child or with an event. What is this? What is going on inside of me? What am I feeling? What am I thinking? Because it's all stemming from a thought or an expectation or an agenda or a belief or, some kind of rigid fantasy of my child should be conforming or behaving or not, they should be listening. Yeah. So it begins with you. So you just begin where you're at. And that's the perfect moment, because everything will unfold from that. So, in terms of peaceful parenting, it's highly peaceful because you're not coming from control and fear-based strategies anymore. And you're not coming from punishing and rewarding and saying you're a good child or a bad child. There's none of that anymore. Respectful, it starts with us as the parent. How are we respecting ourselves? Our child's going to basically be mirroring what's going on inside of us. So it becomes more of an invitation to go, instead of having like a label, it just becomes like, let's see what data is arriving today with my child. Oh, that's interesting. Look how I dealt with that. I can see I used control because, I was controlled as a child. Or you start where you're at, and I guarantee you all your information will come up very easily. Our children give us many opportunities to grow and to grow up.
Yeah, I like that. I like that it's, because you hear about respectful and gentle parenting. I feel like those are more specifically for that, like what you do with your child, and whereas conscious parenting would be more, like let's look inward at me and then see how I can affect the situation.
Exactly.
And I can,
Exactly. And if we're not being gentle on ourselves, if we're self-sabotaging, if we're really not nice to ourselves and we're listening to that inner critic and how can we be gentle with our child? We're not even being gentle with ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's where it starts with us as a parent.
Yeah. And I'm really glad that we're doing this this week, actually, because my next episode is going to be about complex PTSD. And I'm a survivor of it myself. And so, I have been really reading about the ways that, like, my trauma responses, I have these red flags that go up. And so, Lily, my 3-year-old, will do something, and then in my mind, it'll bring up feelings from, the past. And so it's hard to stay in the moment with her. I was telling my husband, I said, because in a vacuum, none of her behavior would be upsetting. None of her behavior, because she's a child. She's a little kid, there's no reason I should be offended, or there's no reason that I should feel rage at my child. Right. But it's because of the being triggered to, things that happened in my past, and I'm angry about that. And it's just all these repressed emotions that just bubble up to the surface. And so, so through therapy and all of that, I've become really self-aware. And so I can kind of like look at all of these different moments with my girls and kind of, reevaluate, okay, I shouldn't have been mad at her in that moment because now I understand where she was coming from. And the only reason I got upset with her was because of, it's really, really interesting. There's so much, like, you're right. Our kids teach us so much about ourselves,
Exactly. And that piece of awareness is the first step. So when we can have some spaciousness between that awareness and our child, then we can go, okay, yeah, I see, that's me, that's mine. And then we're less likely to project that trauma or that stuff onto our child, and be able to be with what's going on inside of us. Often as a parent, we have to go back to it because in the moment we have to deal with maybe their tantrum. And so that awareness is really important and key for all of this work. Once we become aware, then we can start to shift our behaviors and move from unhelpful behaviors to more helpful behaviors for ourselves and for our child.
Yeah. Well, great. So we are going to take a quick break, and then when we get back, we'll just dive right back in. So we'll be right back.
The Imperfect Moms Club is brought to you by...
Did you know Geico's now offering an extra 15% credit on car and motorcycle policies? That's 15% on top of what Geico could already save you. So what are you waiting for? Your teenager to help around the house?
Okay, Mom, I emptied the dishwasher, vacuumed the basement, and folded the sheets out of the dryer.
Wait, what?
Oh, and next, I'm going to clean Mitten's litter box.
Are we in some kind of prank show or something? That's a camera, isn't it?
There's never been a better time to switch to Geico. Save an extra 15% when you switch by October 7th. Limitations apply. Visit geico.com for details.
Hey, my friend, I just wanted to pop in for one quick second and just ask you if you wouldn't mind sharing a screenshot of the show right now on your social media. If you would do that and post it to your Instagram stories, to your Facebook stories, or something like that, and tag us, that would help our show so much. The best advertisement is by word of mouth from our listeners, just like you. If you found an episode that you truly love and that was helpful for you, or that just made you laugh along with us, please share that with your family and friends. We want to grow our community, and the only way to do that is with your help.
This is the Imperfect Moms Club on PEN. Get in touch with the show through the PEN listener hotline at 833-PODS-NET. That's 833-763-7638. And now, back to the Imperfect Moms Club on the Podcast Entertainment Network.
Thanks for sticking around. And here we are back with Nina Cruz. So I guess I want to talk more about conscious parenting as it relates to the idea of breaking the cycle of generational trauma. So you were just mentioning that the first step is self-awareness. Like, what are some things that you teach your clients? What are some things that they can do, to kind of help them with, situations that come up, I guess?
Yeah. So the first step is becoming aware of it and looking at what's going on inside of me. What feeling is bubbling up inside of me. And a lot of this work, there are things to do in the moment, and then there's work to be done going back to what that feeling was, because you can't deconstruct and understand really where the root of what was going on comes from when you're dealing with the child.
Yeah, in the moment. Yeah.
You. So
your child's throwing a tantrum. It's not the time to therapy.
Exactly. Exactly. So becoming aware that, oh, yes, I'm having a response. Maybe I'm having a trauma response. Okay, how can I regulate myself? I can stop and breathe and consciously breathe and pause and feel my feet on the ground and get present, because when we're present, we're less likely to go into the past or project into the future. Mm-hmm. So really stopping and slowing it all down. Often as parents, we just automatically jump into things and we regret later on, or we feel guilty. So it's really slowing everything down. There's no rush. There's no need your child, unless there's obviously an emergency or some safety issue, they can wait a moment, and you just set yourself up, and then you move to the moment with more of an energy of neutrality rather of being triggered and charged. And obviously our child is co-regulating with us, so we want to try and be regulated. And that doesn't mean we're not dealing with stuff in our mind where it's all, because the mind is a machine and it's just thousands of thoughts every day. So it's more just in the body of really grounding yourself in the moment and becoming regulated, and then moving to your child. And then you can go back, and the work I do with parents is to start to look at what was really going on. And often, or most of the time actually, you just come down the feeling and you trace the feeling, we deconstruct the feeling as to what was the root cause of it. And, it could have been I'm not enough. I'm not enough for my child. What I do, what I don't do is never enough. Or I'm not worthy, or I'm not lovable, or there's just a handful of root causes that will bring you back to what was really going on. And these stem from our childhood conditioning of the patterns that were created in childhood in our mind, as we're programmed between the ages of 0 and 7. Like a computer program, our mind plays these patterns out. And until we become aware it's a pattern and not really who we are, we're usually playing an automated response, an automated pattern, until we become aware and we can shift and go, oh, that's not how I want to be, or that's not me. I'll choose something different.
So I really like the idea of looking inwardly, and I feel almost like this is like I've chosen to look at parenthood as kind of I'm healing my inner child through parenting them. I saw something on your website that made me my jaw dropped, and I was like, oh my God, this is great. Your Reparent Me project. So I've read about reparenting and how it really helps with, complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And so I just, if you could talk about that, I think that's incredible.
Yeah. Well, the reparenting, because really we're raising ourselves up, our inner child up first, so we can raise the child before us. Because whenever we're triggered, our inner child, if you can imagine there's a cage, your inner child's in a cage, and the cage part is the ego, which was formed in childhood due to unmet needs. And certainly no blame on anyone. This is just how it is. We have unmet needs of childhood. Our parents did the best they could, and this was created. So if you can imagine, when you're triggered, the little girl or the little boy inside is rattling the cage, and the ego is the protective mechanism, the protection around the inner child. So the reparenting work is really about starting to reparent yourself, starting to meet those unmet needs that, you see, often we feel most of the time, we're trying to meet these unmet needs through something external. So through our partner, through our child, very common, through our work, through whatever. We're trying to be seen, to be heard, we're trying to meet it externally. So now we go within and we meet the needs of our inner child all by ourselves, and we grow him up in ways that we're meeting that need. So there's no longer need to rattle the cage anymore. And also we're becoming aware of when our ego comes in, when we have these defense mechanisms, like somebody does something to us or our child does something, and we're like, right, go to your room, and we want them gone, because the ego, the antics of the ego is danger, build us up or beat us down, and it'll push people away. It'll push, we can push people away in our life if we desire, but we can't push our child away. So this is the perfect setup to do the work, because you can't say, sorry, this relationship isn't working for me anymore. We have to either meet the child, or we project our stuff onto the child. So we get a choice, and we get to decide.
So I guess I'll get a little bit personal here. So for me, there's a lot of feelings of not being good enough. So, there's some things will come up where I will have purchased something really great for my daughter, or I would have prepared something. It took a long time or something. And then, a tantrum will happen because she's 3 and she has big emotions. But then I feel offended. I take it personally, because I feel how could you be yelling at me? I did all this work for you and all this stuff. And so then I have to kind of stop and realize, no, she's not doing anything to me. Like, this is from,
Exactly.
when I was a
Exactly.
kid and I didn't feel like I was good enough. And now I feel like, again, I'm not good enough, because she was upset about something.
Yeah.
But I have to realize that, no, she's feeling a big emotion that she doesn't know how to handle because she's 3. Yeah. It's difficult. It's difficult.
It's in our face, like that what you're talking about just then, realizing that nothing's really personal. We take it all very personal as parents, that the child is being a child, that they're going to have the tantrum, they're going to mess up, they're going to break a cup, they're going to spill milk. They're doing all this stuff that is just part of being a child. But because of our own upbringing and our own trauma or our own patterns, we take it on and make it all personal. So realizing that feeling and then meeting that feeling where you're at, because, if you grow up as a child really shoving your feelings down, you actually can't, it's hard to be with feelings. It's hard to just allow them to be. Yeah. We need to do something. We need to fix it. We need to change it. When we realize that there's nothing to fix and there's nothing wrong with us, we're not broken, then we can just be with it. And then it just like a wave, it just goes to the shore and flows away and
comes and goes.
Just like our child. Our child's tantrum for 10 minutes and then they're like happy as ever.
I was reading an article talking about how, children, they'll say like, I hate you. If they're like really like mad at their mom or their dad, they'll say like, oh, I hate you. And, it's so hard in that moment to not be like, because then the reaction from the parent is always, oh my God, how could you say that? Whatever. But the child is just, they're angry and they're just trying to find like the meanest thing they could say, or like the thing, they don't mean it, right? And so it's interesting. Yeah.
So why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't the ego, depending on the child, it's really going to depend on the child, but good. They're letting it out. They're not bottling it up. And, it doesn't feel great for us, but when we can use our perception, our muscle of perception, and go, okay, they said that, they're really frustrated. They struggle to deal with big emotions, frustration, and they've let it out in some way. Okay, they've let a word out, or and it's not personal. Then we can actually support them instead of punishing them, because that's a cry for help, not a cry to go to your room, be it by yourself. Like, I've heard about people, they're the parents that do like timeouts, and I've heard that people are actually saying now it needs to be time in, like instead of sending them away, you need to be bringing them in and really talking about, okay, what is it that's bothering you? And because the timeouts take the child away. They disconnect the child. We want to bring in connection in those times of, especially when they're regulating with us. We want that connection. And, often when they're in there, flip their lid in terms of, they're triggered and they're upset and they're melting down. We just need to hold space for them. This is where conscious parenting is really about attuning to your child. What is my child needing in this moment? What is the behavior, or what's the need below the behavior that they're trying to meet? If you were a child that stuffed your emotions down, it's hard to be with your emotions and then be with your child's emotions because you want to shut them down.
Okay, we're going to take another quick break, and when we get back, I actually have a personal dilemma to ask you about.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Imagine a world where potty training is fun, fast, and easy. Only pull-ups have Disney graphics that fade when wet to teach big kids to stay dry. So they're motivated to keep the music going.
I'm a big kid now.
Did you know Geico's now offering an extra 15% credit on car and motorcycle policies? That's 15% on top of what Geico could already save you. So what are you waiting for? Your dentist to actually believe you?
And you're flossing every day.
Absolutely.
Great. And you're cutting down on your sweets?
Of course.
Wonderful. Then I don't even need to look in there.
Great. See you in 6 months.
There's never been a better time to switch to Geico. Save an extra 15% when you switch by October 7th. Limitations apply. Visit geico.com for details.
Enjoying this show? Be sure to check out all the shows across the Podcast Entertainment Network, where there's a show for every interest. Visit www.podcastentertainment.com to browse through the full collection of shows. And now, back to the Imperfect Moms Club on the Podcast Entertainment Network.
Okay, so welcome back. And so my dilemma is I struggle with like when to rush to my children and when I can kind of take the space that I need. I think that growing up, I didn't always get the attention that I felt like I needed. Like I didn't always get the, emotional help and all of that. And so now, I struggle with, like, I always feel like I'm going to neglect them. I'm always scared that I'm not going to be there enough, or that, so every time my toddler says anything or does anything, I'm always like, oh, what is it? What do you need? But then I'm also not taking time for me. And so I get like extra frazzled because it's hard for me to, I don't know.
So is it like because it sounds like you're hyper vigilant about anything they do. You have a great fear of screwing them up, or you're going to do it wrong. And then what if there is a wrong and you did it wrong? What would happen?
I mean, I've heard that, I've heard it said before that you want to be a good enough parent, right? You want to make sure they know that you're there, and and so I make sure that their attachments with me are secure, and I know that they're good. Sometimes, when my toddler's screaming, like it's just because she's trying to get attention when she doesn't like need something. But for me, in my mind, alarm bells go off. She needs something. There's trouble or whatever. And so I haven't found a way to kind of help that or squelch that or,
find that. Yeah. So if you're coming from the pattern of not good enough, if you're looking through the lens of that all the time with your children, what do you think the experience will be?
Well, like if I'm not good enough, then I'm not going to catch something that needs to be, I'm not going to catch a problem, or I'll have, ignored them when they really need me. And then that'll, it'll snowball effect into like, I don't know. And then I catastrophize it in my head. So, because anxiety is wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the pattern. The good thing is you're aware of the pattern, but instead of parenting through that pattern, you can accept and understand the pattern of why it was there, and it kept you safe as a child because, it kept you, it probably gave you some great things as a child to keep you safe and keep you protected. But now you're a parent, it's getting in the way of you connecting with your child or attuning to your child, because if you're hyper vigilant or you're trying to fix things, then you're coming from usually control, trying to swoop in, and actually it takes away some of the lessons and experiences that your child will naturally have as nature intended.
Yeah.
And you come in and then block those experiences, whether it's feeling certain ways that your child needs to experience, or having certain experiences, in the home or outside or with children or with friends, whatever it might be. So it's becoming aware of that pattern and not allowing that to play out or to control you, because when we have patterns, we give that the power. So then it's becoming aware of the pattern, and then knowing what, maybe deconstruct that pattern. What happens? What do I do? What do I think about? What do I feel? Then what actions do I take? You know it so well that when you spot that pattern, it's like the reparenting. You just breathe and I accept it. I know it's there, but I'm choosing different now. And then you've got to get clear on what you're creating. What do you want to create with your child? How do you want them to feel with you? Do you just want to observe them? And then you know that when you're right near them, you're in their energy aura, they're in their space. You don't have to do anything. Your presence is more powerful than anything you could do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard because I I mean, I'm very aware. We were talking earlier about, you know, instead of just being in the feelings. So my way to avoid feeling is to analyze my feelings instead. And so I've become incredibly self-aware because I've done so much research and I've talked to so many people in therapy, but I haven't really, like, taken it in. Like, it hasn't really, you know,
embodied it.
Yeah. So
the application.
Yeah. So that's what I struggle with. Yeah.
So the mind, that the ego will keep you in your mind. The ego it wants to keep you. So the ego wants to keep you safe and sane. Exactly the same. Anything out of the box is unpredictable, unsafe, keeps you the same. So your strategy or your coping mechanism is to go to your head and analyze, and that keep you in the same loop.
Yeah.
Keep you, and that will exhaust you. You haven't left the house or done anything in the morning and you're exhausted because you've had so many thoughts and you've followed the thoughts maybe down the rabbit hole, and then that gives you the anxiety, which makes you like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I need to control. So there's all this show going on upstairs, inside. No one knows what's happening and you're already exhausted.
Yeah.
So when I don't know if you do any meditation or becoming the minder of your mind is basically starting to notice the thoughts like they're on a train, but you're not jumping on the train every moment. You're like, and when you notice you jumped on the train, pull yourself back into the moment. Then you're not giving your power away to every thought. We have 70,000 thoughts a day in our mind. 95% are the same thoughts as yesterday. So that's why we go, we're not getting anywhere. We're just rehashing the past all the time. So it would be starting to know that your strategy is to analyze things and starting to drop into your heart and notice the thoughts, and they're just going to keep coming. They're not right. They're not wrong. It's part of the pattern and the program, the programming. That's not who you really are. And when you start to overanalyze, stop, go, okay, what do I feel? Drop into your heart and go, what is it that I really feel my child needs right now? Not like going, okay, she did this, she ate that, she did that, and she needs to do this. It's all like very, very too much. That's why we're so overwhelmed as parents, because we're trying to micromanage and control everything.
Yeah.
When you let go a little and you just start to get in the moment, you go, okay, I know my mind will do that. I know it's taking me away from the present moment. What does my child need? And hold hand on heart and just go, what are they needing right now? And you will be surprised of all the intuitive hits you'll come, and you'll know exactly what your child needs, and not because you figured it out in your head.
Yeah.
It's a very different space to be.
Yeah, because that's the thing is I love learning naturally and learning through exploring and all that stuff. And so all I want is for Lily, my 3-year-old, her name's Lily. All I want is for Lily to be able to learn as much as she can from her experiences. I don't want to be in my head. I know this is bad and this is hindering her, but I just can't help it. And so
not bad. Not bad. It's not bad. It's just what you learn. It's where it was your home. You went, it was your go-to. It was safe to be in your head, because maybe in your heart it was too vulnerable. There wasn't people there to hold your heart like you needed, or nurture you or nourish you. Your head was the safe place. So not bad. It's just what you learned.
Yeah.
And now you can know another way. But the thing is, with information, we can know a lot of information. There's a lot of very clever people out there, but it stays locked inside their head. They don't apply it. They don't take action. They don't. So it's the embodiment of starting to just focus on one thing. Go, this is what I want to master right now. I want to master connectivity with my child, or, and it's the embodiment and the application that will get you the results you're really wanting with your child, or the shifts or the connection piece. Because when we stay in our head, it's like, I think I wrote a post once, like words on a page. That's it. It's just, good knowledge is great. Don't get me wrong. But without application, it's just words on a page, it's understanding, but we're not applying it into our life. And that's where we get frustrated, because we don't see the results we want.
Yeah. So I have ADHD. And so that's all it is just, I have all of these ideas and these thoughts, but then like applying them and actually putting them out in the universe is the hard part. And so like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
It's in everything that I do, you know, so.
Yeah. And so knowing that, see, I have similar, I don't know if I'm diagnosed, I'm not diagnosed, but I'm sure I probably am. I have a lot of ideas, but if I don't focus is your superpower. Focus in this world of mass distraction is our superpower. So if we can focus on just 1, 2, that's about it. 2, 3 is max. That's it. And then it would be the discipline and the will to get back on, because our natural mind will just start to veer off. Oh, I want to do this and oh, I want to do that. But look at you, you're doing a podcast. You've already channeled your energy in one area. So that's awesome. So keeping focus will support your mind to get to the next step and the next step. And we don't have to know how we're going to do it. It's just follow the next step. Oh, okay. And I feel like I need to do this now. And then the next step. And the same with our child. We don't know how to do it, figure it all out. There's no figuring out. It's what is showing up in the moment and what is my next step? What do I feel? Like, what does my heart say? Yeah. What is my child needing? Like, because we want to figure it all out and we want to have this, you know, future plan, or we're, you know, that was what messes us up. We can't be in the moment. We're always thinking of the future, or we're thinking, or we're bringing the past into the present. So, yeah, when we've got like a brain that, you know, is like a, you know, Ferrari with really not the best brakes, we need to start to just do micro focuses and, you know, like really small bite-sized things to support us. And then it's like, love it. Love how my brain is so highly creative and loves to churn out information and ideas. Love it. But then you pull it in and focus for a micro moment, you know, like 10 minutes, that's it. If 10 minutes is it, wow, I did 10 minutes today. So we, just like our child, we have to align and attune to how they are.
Yeah, and that in turn will keep us mindful and in the moment. And, you know, I was recently talking with somebody, and we were talking about how, you know, we're human beings, we're not human becomings. And yet somehow we seem to always be, you know, human becomings. Like, oh, well, you know, what else can we learn and all this stuff? But we also were talking about how, you know, we all want to learn all these things, but it's impossible to know everything. It's impossible to know everything. It's impossible to do everything.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's really...
Well, yeah, I think it's the discernment that, are you wanting to know because you love it and you want to learn it? Or are you learning and wanting to know more because you're trying to overcompensate for a pattern of not feeling enough? And so more will try and feel you're not enough. So then accepting, okay, if I don't really love it and I'm not doing it because I really love it because I just want to do it, if I'm doing it because there is another motive or there is another compensation that we're trying to make up for our patterns and our, you know, the loops of where we go, then that we'll never be able to meet that need, because it's a setup. It doesn't want to, you're not enough will never be enough. That's it. It's just never going to be. So instead of messing about in that loop, move to a different orientation, start to create, knowing that, you know, so we've got to step out of that dysfunction or that pattern. We see it, but we don't play in it anymore, because that's going to never get you what you want, really. It's just it's going to churn out the same stuff, same thoughts, same feelings, same actions.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, especially as moms, we're so hard on ourselves. And so, you know, you mentioned, you know, what is my child doing that's amazing? But then what am I doing that's amazing? It's so hard for us to think of that, to be like, oh, what did I, you know, what's a good thing that I did today? You know, Lily's preschool will send me pictures, and they sent me a picture of her, and it had, they were working on writing. And so the teacher had written her name, and then Lily had written, and the letters were actually like really good, and I was so proud. And so I was like emotional, and I was so proud of her, and you know, and so that's got me thinking now. I'm like, I'm so proud of her because she did that. But then, okay, what did I do? Did I do something too today?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and you know, it's really, you know, starting to, you know, shift our mindset, shift our perception of what how we see the world. Often we're seeing the world how we were conditioned. When we can get outside of that and see that we're so much more than what we do on the outside, and and our children are just beautiful spirits, divine beings that we can start to, when we see it in ourselves, we see it in other people and in our child, realizing it, because your podcast is the Imperfect Mums Club. Finding perfection in our imperfections. Like, wow, I did this today. That's so funny. Of course I did that. It's a pattern, love your pattern.
Yeah.
But don't live from it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that, finding perfection in the imperfection. I think I wrote something similar. I said, the fact that we're able to be aware that we have these imperfections, that sounds pretty perfect to me. The fact, it's perfect. The fact that we're able to be aware enough of, these are the things that need to change. These are the things that we need to work on,
Exactly. And when you can realize that voice in your head isn't really yours, it's not you, it's whatever don't listen to it. If it's saying something, don't listen to it. It's not real. It's not real. It's an illusion. It's the inner critic. It's, voices of our childhood of, you may hear your mom in your head like, oh, you didn't do a good enough job. That's not even real. And then we're following that and believing it's true, when we can realize it's not true whatsoever. It's not who we are, and say, thanks, voice, but, thank you for that. But you know what? I'm choosing different, because it's not real. Yeah. And that will change like your complete life if you don't listen to that voice, and don't listen to what other people say, because they're coming from their voice, and then you're getting their parents' voice.
Yeah. We're all just talking to each other as parents, I feel like.
Exactly. I mean, you don't go and ask, find what is your heart and soul really wanting, and follow that, because that's the wisdom. And that's the inside out journey, not the outside in journey. So really tapping into your own truth, and letting that guide you. And if you're not sure, do a little bit of meditation, and see what patterns are playing out. Once you sit in quiet, silence, you're going to see how noisy your mind is. And you're going to watch the thoughts going, oh my God, am I, I don't stop. And it doesn't. The mind is a machine. It's just constant, but you can put space between it, and you don't need that to run the show. You can start to, decide what you want, and not be pulled by the past and by your conditioning and your patterns. So yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. This is amazing. You're brilliant. And I'm so glad that we talked. Oh, thank you. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed talking to me. And is there anything, any parting words? How can people contact you if they like what they heard and want to know more? Yeah.
Well, I'm on all the major channels of Instagram, Nina Cruz Coach, Facebook, Nina Cruz Conscious Coaching, on my website, ninacruzconsciouscoaching.com. I've got a few free things there. 12 Days of Presence program where
I actually signed up for that.
Yeah, oh good. So you can just like bite-sized pieces, perfect for our brains if they're overworked. Just to get focus, one little focus actionable step a day to start to think about something. And as I said, the focus is so important. Where our focus goes, our energy, our attention goes, what we focus on, we feel. I mean, this I think is the key piece for parenting as well as our life, that if we keep focusing on not enough and our child's not doing what we want, we're going to get more of that. We just what we focus on also expands. So I can't say that enough. Often it's starting to look at, what is my child doing? What are the amazing things my child's doing? And then also looking at you, what are the amazing things I'm doing? Yeah. Because our brain's hardwired to look for what's missing and what's wrong. We need to start to use the power of our mind to start to look at what's really going on and what's really going on well for us. So yeah, I think focus in this day and age is a big thing.
I love that. Well, I'm so glad I met you.
Thank you. I'm really glad too.
Yeah, I hope that we keep in touch, and thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yes. Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
Yeah.
Want to get in touch with the show? Email us at imperfect@podcastentertainment.com. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Imperfect Moms Club.